Hi everyone, welcome to Oracle Goldengate session. My name is Ashish Agarwal and I will be delivering this session to you. So before starting about me, I have 10 plus years of experience as Oracle Goldengate specialist and Oracle DBA. I have been conducting trainings on Oracle Goldengate for past more than 6 years. So far I have trained more than 650 plus individuals in fact and 20 plus corporate clients. So I'm currently working from Canada. I have worked and implemented Goldengate in more than 50 projects. Currently, in fact, the environment where I'm working, they are using Goldengate in around 15 different projects so far. So the count of implementation has increased now. And during the sessions, you will find real-time scenarios and test cases. So my mail ID is this. You can reach out to me anytime on ashishagarwalag@gmail.com. My mobile number is, WhatsApp number is this, and call number is this one. You can also watch, you can also refer to my LinkedIn profile or Urban Pro profile as well. So first of all, what is Goldengate? Why Goldengate is used? Oracle Golden is a tool which provides near real-time replication. So Oracle Goldengate is a tool which provides near real-time transactional data replication. Now what do we mean by real-time? It replicates the data from source database to target database in real time. Replication can be unidirectional, bidirectional, or multidimensional in Oracle. So you can replicate the data one to one, or in both in bidirectional scenario or multidimensional. So Goldengate is a data integration tool, you can say. Apart from data replication, you can integrate the data as per your requirement. So with Goldengate, the capability is it supports your unidirectional replication, bidirectional replication as well. That is, application can be connected to any of the environment and replication will happen to the other environment. Or you can do it at multi-dimensional level. Now replication can involve several sources and target simultaneously, and used for distributing data for backup, hot standby, auditing, reporting, warehousing, and load distribution. So with Goldengate, it is not that you will have one-to-one replication. You can have one-to-one replication, you can have many-to-one replication, or one-to-many topology as well. That is, one-to-one is normal replication. Many-to-one, you are having multiple sources and you are replicating it to single target. So that is kind of data warehouse or data mart. Or you can also perform one to many, that is broadcasting from Oracle Goldengate. So you could use Goldengate for distributing data to multiple targets for backup, for hot standby, for auditing purpose, reporting purpose, warehousing, and load distribution. One major advantage with Goldengate is you can replicate the data as it is, or replicated data may be edited, transformed, split into different distributions. So with Goldengate, it is possible to filter out the data or transform the data as per your requirement. So by filtration, we mean that suppose on source you have 10 rows. You want to replicate the data of 5 rows only. It is possible to do with Oracle Goldengate. Now, let us take example of AT&T. Like AT&T has a global database. Its presence is there in USA, Canada, Malaysia, Singapore, each and every country they have its presence. Now they decide that they have a single database, AT&T Global. Now for instance, they decide to build country-wise database like AT&T USA, AT&T Canada, AT&T Malaysia, AT&T Singapore. So what will happen? Application will connect to AT&T Global will make entry into AT&T Global. However, from there on, it will be replicated to the respective database. Suppose I am a customer in Canada, I went to AT&T store, bought a new connection. So my entry application will basically make the entry to the AT&T Global database. Insert will happen. However, from there on, Goldengate will replicate it to AT&T Canada database. Basically, you are doing one-to-many replication. That is, you have one source and multiple targets. So it will be replicated to AT&T Canada. Suppose a customer went from US, he went and bought a new connection. So again, application will make entry into AT&T Global. However, using Goldengate, it will be replicated to AT&T US data. So you can use Goldengate for business analytics purpose. Why this kind of scenarios many financial or telecom organizations are using? The reason being they want to see how much revenue per geography they are able to generate, how much, which area they need to concentrate more on, which is the most revenue generating country. So based on all this information, they can decide what to be done, which area to concentrate more on, and which one is less generating area. So you can, means they are kind of using it for analytics and business intelligence purpose as well. So you can transform the data using Oracle Goldengate. Now another advantage with Goldengate is apart from filtration, you can transform the data. For instance, on source you have employee table. In employee table there are two columns, salary and commission column. On target you have only one column called as salary. You want that addition of salary and commission should be replicated to salary column on target. So you can transform the data as per your requirement. You can put the hard code, you can hard code the value, you can use Goldengate built-in functions in Oracle Goldengate. So you can have metadata added or filtered. Both DML and DDLs may be replicated in whole or in part. So the advantage of Goldengate is you could use Goldengate for replicating DML as well as DDL transactions as well. So now the question comes, there are a lot of competitors of Oracle Goldengate in the market, but why Oracle Goldengate? You have IBM CDC. You have, when we talk about Oracle products, so you have Oracle Data Guard. Earlier you used to have Oracle Streams. But why still Oracle Goldengate is most sought after technology in the market? Why Goldengate is hot technology with respect to jobs currently in the market? So there are multiple reasons behind it. So first of all, let us talk about financial reason and then we'll move to technical reason. So financially, the main reason is why there are so many jobs is, see, many organizations sign end user license agreement with Oracle for year, 2 year or 3 year. So when they sign end user license agreement, they are free to use any Oracle product for that particular timing for which they have signed end user license agreement. Goldengate is a tool which is a license tool. If you are buying it separately, it may be costly, as well as its cost is per server. Now, when they signed end user license agreement, they are free to use any Oracle product on any server, on any number of server. That means if they have bought and if they have signed end user license agreement with Oracle, they are free to use Oracle Goldengate, Oracle Data Integrator, Oracle Database, Oracle Fusion Middleware products, everything they can use. So with Goldengate, so why they are using now Goldengate is because Goldengate has many capabilities. Like Goldengate along with ODI, when you use the combination of Oracle Goldengate and ODI, Oracle Data Integrator, it is one of the best business intelligence solution in the market. It is equivalent to your Informatica. It is most widely used solution for business intelligence. So organizations, what they think is, if you think financially, what they think is, instead of investing in Informatica, anyways they have bought the license for Oracle end user license agreement, so they will use Goldengate and ODI instead of buying separate solution or separate license for Informatica. So there are multiple reasons financially why they are using Goldengate. Apart from that, the capability which Goldengate delivers, like real-time replication, disaster recovery, all these are advantages of Oracle Goldengate. Now technically, in terms of technical, when we talk about why Goldengate is, data is sent in real time with sub-second latency. So Goldengate sends the data. Once it gets committed on source, it gets replicated on target database within real time. It supports heterogeneous environment across database and hardware types. So it is not mandatory that your source should be Oracle, target should be Oracle. Your source could be any database, non-Oracle, any supported database, and target could again be any supported database. When we compare DataGuard and Oracle, the main difference is it is with DataGuard, version of Oracle needs to be same, along with that platform of source and target needs to be same. However, with Goldengate, these both are not restrictions. You can replicate the data from MySQL to Oracle, DB2 to SQL Server, you can do that. And platform is again not an issue. So your source could be on Exadata, target could be on Windows. Source code could be on Linux, target could be on Sun Solaris. Goldengate will support it. High performance with low impact. So the performance of Goldengate which it's delivered, it is pretty high in comparison to impact it has on database. See, Goldengate is an external tool to the database. So definitely it will have some impact. When you are installing any product on top of database, it may have some impact. So the performance which Goldengate delivers is very high in comparison to impact it has. Now we won't say Goldengate does not have any impact on database. It has, because see, you create users. So they make session with the database. And being an external tool, it may have some impact, but the impact, again I am repeating, is not high. Prior to 12c, we had the concept of classic capture and replicate. So classic capture and replicate impact was there. It was around 1 to 2%. With the introduction of 12c, they have introduced the concept of integrated capture. With integrated capture, the impact has lowered significantly. Now, the impact has been reduced on the database. Goldengate has the ability to move large volume of data very efficiently. That is, it can also move blob, clob, big tables. It can do that. Then no single point of failure. So Goldengate ensures that your database is highly available. Now suppose you have kept your primary server in Dallas, secondary server in New York. So you are replicating the data from Dallas to New York using Goldengate. Your application is connected to Dallas and it is getting replicated to New York server. So what you are doing, suppose you are inserting a data. Inserting will happen in Dallas server using application. However, it will be replicated to target database using Oracle Goldengate. Now for instance, in Dallas there is some disaster like power failure. So in that scenario, what will happen? Your Goldengate has replicated the data to New York server real time. As a result, since it is real time, your application can now connect to your New York server. Currently it was connected to Dallas, but since there is power failure, application will automatically switch over to New York server. So it ensures, Goldengate ensures that there is no single point of failure. Now, what are the concepts of Oracle Goldengate? Goldengate can support number of different business requirements like business continuity and high availability. So with Goldengate, as we discussed, it ensures that your business continuity is always maintained and your database is highly available. So just like we discussed just now, that your Dallas server was down, and suddenly, even if it was down, your New York server is getting the data in near real time. So before power failure, whatever data was there in Dallas, it was replicated using Oracle Goldengate. Your application just need to switch over from Dallas to New York, ensuring business continuity and high availability of database. You can use Goldengate for data migration and upgradation. So Goldengate supports one of the major usage of Oracle Goldengate is in migration or upgradation. You migrate and upgrade your databases regularly. Now when you do that, you tend to take loads of downtime. Now during that downtime, it leads to user dissatisfaction. It leads to revenue loss for an organization, and also goodwill also goes on to us. So if you use Oracle Golden Gate could be used for zero downtime data migration and upgradation. Golden Gate also support decision support system and data warehousing. So you could use Oracle Golden Gate for decision support system or data warehousing as well. So you can have multiple sources and single target. Golden Gate can replicate the data. Data integration and consolidation is also supported. So as we discussed, you can integrate the data, you can consolidate the data as per a requirement, you can broadcast the data. So these are the ways, these are the configuration which you could do with Oracle Golden Gate. That is unidirectional. That is reporting instance. So with Golden Gate, you can perform replication in unidirectional. You can use the secondary server for reporting instance. Now I'll give you one example. I was working with State Bank of India, which is one of the biggest bank, highest wins. It has biggest, at that moment their database size was 43 TB. They have a huge database. So in 2012 I'm talking about. Right now, in my opinion, the way it was increasing, it must have increased to 60 terabytes now. So what happened, the primary server was kept in Mumbai, India, and secondary server was replicating using DataGuard to Hyderabad, India. Now many a times their night jobs used to run, during which they used to generate more than 100 GB of redos in an hour, not in a day, in an hour. Now DataGuard used to go on toss if those many redos were generated. Many a times I have seen DataGuard was lagging 24 hours behind. So you can assume, means if there is any disaster in Mumbai server, what will happen? SBI is biggest database at that moment. It was biggest database at that moment. Now in terms of financial organizations I'm talking about. So, and also since there were a lot of reporting jobs used to run on their Mumbai server, it used to interfere with their OLTP transactions, resulting in bad customer experience. So as a team, as we proposed them that they should be using their Hyderabad server for reporting instance. Reporting instance can, means, yeah, their Hyderabad server can replicate the data in, will be receiving the data in real time using Oracle Golden Gate. So they can use it for reporting instance. We propose them because Golden Gate is real time. So we prepared the Hyderabad server. Once we prepared the Hyderabad server for reporting instance, then their reporting jobs were shifted. See, reporting instance can have the lag of 5 to 10 seconds. They can run on the data which is lagging behind 5 to 10 seconds. So once it was run, their customer satisfaction, means once it was implemented, first we did the POC, and once this thing was implemented, their reporting jobs were shifted to Hyderabad server, and Once they were shifted to Hyderabad servers, you could see the performance improvement it had. There was drastic improvement, customer satisfaction improved. Then you could use Goldengate for bidirectional. That is, your application can be connected to either of the side and replication will happen to other side. Then you could use Goldengate for load balancing, high availability. That is, you have three servers A, B and C. Data is replicating from A to B, B to A, B to C, C to A to C, C to A. Then you could use Goldengate for broadcasting. So in broadcasting, you can replicate the data. You can have one source and multiple targets. You can distribute the data. So you have one source and three targets. So you can broadcast the data like one source and three targets when you have. So you can broadcast, suppose there are 100 tables. So you can broadcast all 100 tables to three different targets. Or you can, what you can do, you can broadcast out of 100 tables, you can broadcast 30 tables to site A, 30 tables to site B, and remaining 40 tables to site C. Also, you can consolidate the data in your environment. So you can consolidate the data in data warehouse, data mart, data store. So you have multiple sources and data is replicating to single target. So on source you have 100 tables, for instance. You are replicating the data to single target. Or you can use Goldengate for cascading purpose. That is scalability or database training. So many a times you may not be allowed to install Goldengate on primary server. So what you can do, you can install Goldengate on intermediate server and from there it will be replicated to target. So now let us discuss about architecture of Oracle Goldengate. So architecture of Oracle Goldengate is pretty simple. Architecture of Oracle Goldengate, in Oracle Goldengate you have source database and target database. So your source database can be Oracle, target can be Oracle. Your source could be non-Oracle and target could be non-Oracle. Non-Oracle supported database. It is non-Oracle supported database. So what you will do, you will install Oracle Goldengate on both source and target. You will install Oracle Goldengate on both source and target. Now every database has its own transaction logs. Every database has its own transaction logs where your changes are stored. So suppose you are inserting a record. So changes will be stored in transaction logs. You are updating whatever DDL and DML you are doing. So every database has its own transaction logs where the changes are stored. So whether you do DDL, DML, those changes will be recorded into transaction logs. So when you do the changes, whenever any change is made, you create a Goldengate capture process. You create a Goldengate capture process which scans your transaction logs in sequential manner. So it will read your transaction logs, whatever, suppose you are inserting, updating, deleting, if you are doing any DDL or DML, it will be doing it in sequential manner. So capture process is going to read the transaction logs. Once it reads your transaction logs, it will capture and write it to local trail. Now local trail are the binary format trail files which are stored on your disk, which are stored on your hard disk. So whatever extract process does, it will, whatever extract process captures, basically it will write them to the local trail. Once the data gets returned into the local trail, the pump process reads the data out of your local trail, send it over TCP IP network and writes it to remote trail on target. So capture process is doing the capturing part, writing it to local trail. It's a storage. Basically, it's a storage. Trail files are binary format files which stores the data, whatever has been captured by capture process. Once the data is available in local trail, pump process reads the data out of your local trail, sends it over TCP IP network and writes it to remote trail. Once the data is available into remote trail, the Goldengate delivery process reads the data out of your remote trail and apply it to target database. So there are three processes involved in Oracle Goldengate during architecture. First is the capture process, second is the pump process, third is the delivery process. Capture process captures the data from source database, whatever changes are happening. Pump process sends that data over the TCP IP network and writes it to remote trail, and delivery process apply it to target database. Along with that, you have the storage of this data. So trail files are two types of trail files. One is local trail and second is remote trail. So local trail stores the data whatever capture process captures, and remote trail stores the data whatever pump process is sending over the TCP IP network. So capture process is capturing the changes. Now remember, your transaction logs will contain committed as well as uncommitted transactions. However, capture process is going to capture only committed transactions. Your transaction logs will have committed as well as uncommitted transactions. However, the capture process only captures the committed transactions and write those committed transactions to local trail. So your local trail will always have only committed transactions of the database. Once the transaction gets committed, capture process will capture it, write it to local trail, pump process will write it to remote trail, and replicate will apply it to target database. The reason why Goldengate is platform independent, that is, it works on Windows, Linux, Sun Solaris, Exadata, is because of trail files. The format of trail files is binary format trail file, and it is same even if you are working on any platform. If you are working in Windows, the format of trail file will remain same. If you are working in Linux, format of trail file will remain same. If you are working on Exadata, format of trail files will always remain same. It won't be different on any of the side. So there are three processes. Again, I repeat: capture, pump and delivery. So if you see, pump process, capture process source is your transaction logs of the database. Pump process source is your local trail. Replicate process source is delivery process is also known as replicate. So delivery process source is remote trail. Each process has a source to read from and a target to write to. So capture process source is source database, target is local trail. Pump process source is local trail, target is remote trail. Delivery process source is remote trail, target is target database. Also, for data, these three processes are independent of each other. So your pump can run even if your capture and delivery is wrong. Delivery can run even if your pump and capture is wrong. However, for data purpose, pump process is dependent on capture. Until and unless capture process has returned data to local trail, pump process cannot write it to remote trail. Similarly, until and unless delivery process has read the delivery process has got the data returned into remote trail by the pump process. Delivery process will not be able to write. So in bidirectional, you have same kind of process. Bidirectional is nothing but unidirectional. So whatever data was replicated from A to B, in the same way replication will happen from B to A. So consider this site as site A and site B. Now what you will do, you will configure Goldengate processes on site B. So your site B again will have the transaction logs. Your site B again will have the transaction logs. So whatever changes are happening again on site B application is making. So capture process will capture those changes, will write it to local trail. Pump will read the data from local trail, write it to remote trail on site A, and then replicate process on site A will read the data from remote trail and apply it to site A database. So in bidirectional environment, you have capture, pump and delivery process on both the sides. You have capture, pump and delivery process on both the sides. However, the capture, pump and corresponding replicate exists on side B. Similarly, capture, pump of site B have a corresponding replicate on site A. These processes are individual, are independent of each other, and they will never interfere with each other functionally. So with the introduction of 12C, Goldengate introduced the concept of integrated capture. Now in classic capture, what used to happen was what was the problem? The capture process is interacting directly with the source database. Now, when it is interacting directly with the source database transaction logs, it may have some performance impact. Though it is not very high, but still when you compare big size database, as I discussed SBI, or any database which is in TBs, even if a performance impact of 1 to 2% is there, it's very high. So this is when the capture process interacts directly with the source database, that is known as classic capture. So to mitigate that reservation, Oracle introduced the concept of integrated capture from 11G R2. Now in case of integrated capture, your extract process does not interact directly with the transaction logs of database. It does not interact directly with redo logs and archive logs of database directly. What happens is, whatever changes are there in the database, whenever you are doing any DML or DDL, those changes will be made into the redo logs. Now, once those changes are made into the redo log, copy of those changes is returned to the log miner database. Now this log miner database is nothing but same log miner utility which is there at the database level, which is used to mine the archive logs. So whenever any change is made to redo logs, a copy of those changes is returned to the log miner database, and then extract receives those changes from log miner database in form of LCRs. LCR stands for logical change records. So now in this scenario, extract is not interacting directly with the redo logs or archive logs of the database. It is not interacting with them directly at all. You have a utility, you have in between log miner, in between of redo logs and the extract process. So what happens is, whenever any change is made, changes are recorded into transaction logs, that is redo logs and archive logs. Copy of those changes gets returned to the log miner database. And then whatever changes are required by the extract process, your extract process is receiving them in form of LCR. So here the extract process is not interacting directly with the source database. Your extract process is not at all contacting the redo logs or archive logs directly. It is receiving the changes from the log miner. Once the changes are received, extract writes them to the local trail and datapump then writes them to the remote trail from where they are processed by the delivery process. So now the question comes, what is the advantage of introducing log miner? One thing I'll tell you, with the introduction of integrated capture, the performance of Goldengate has increased drastically. I'll tell you I did one test in my organization last week. Sorry, not last week, last year I should say. So therein we noticed that when the transactions per second in case of classic capture were 8 to 10,000, the lag was 5 to 7 seconds. When we increased it to 15,000, lag was around 30 seconds. And when we increased it to 18,000, lag was hovering at a minute, or it's very high. However, with case of integrated capture, we noticed that when the lag was up, when the transactions per second were up to 15,000 per second, 15,000 transactions per second, the lag was around 2 to 3 seconds. When we increase it to 18,000, lag was around 4 to 5 seconds. When we increase it to 20,000 or 22,000, lag was around 15 to 30 seconds. However, we never noticed the lag crossing 30 seconds any time. Now, what advantage it brought to the table? Why the performance of Goldengate increased? If you see here, in case of classic capture, it was interacting with the source database directly. However, integrated capture, there is one more layer in between, which is log miner. So how is it possible that the performance is high? So answer again lies in the architecture only. See, what was happening in case of classic capture? The classic capture was reading your transaction logs in sequential manner. It has to read the transaction logs in sequential manner. So it was scanning transaction logs. Now suppose there are 100 tables in your environment. You want to replicate the data of only 2 tables. So still, even if capture process has to capture the data of 2 tables, it will have to scan the transactions, all the transactions of 100 tables. And whatever is required, it will write it to local trail. However, scanning will take time because capture process is external to the database. However, in case of integrated capture, this scanning part is done by log miner. Now, since log miner is internal to database, as a result, it is able to perform it quickly. As a result, the performance is very high. Even though the transactions per second is high, your log miner is capable enough, your integrated capture is capable enough to extract the changes in quick time with minimum lag. So whatever log miner gets, it passes on the changes to the extract process, whatever is required by the extract process in form of LCRs, logical change record. So the new features of 12c includes support for multi-tenant architecture. So prior to 12 till 11G, 12c is extension of 11G with the introduction of some new features. The new features are like support for multi-tenant architecture. So with 12c, Goldengate has introduced multi-tenant architecture. So Oracle has introduced multi-tenant architecture as the database level. So Goldengate now supports multi-tenant architecture. High performance data replication. Integrated capture and integrated replicate has been introduced. Password, the security features have been improved in Oracle Goldengate from 12c onwards. Then compatibility with database data pump during initial load. So how's the job market in Oracle Goldengate? Oracle Goldengate job market is very high currently. There are a lot of jobs in the market. Means if you have Oracle Goldengate, your standing out in your, means whatever interviews you are going into. So there are a lot of job market. The average Golden Gate salary in USA as of August 30, 2016 is 98,000 US dollars. So this figure is taken out from Indeed. As of August 30, 2016, the average Golden Gate salary in US was 98,000. So let us see what we are going to discuss during the training. So during the training, our course agenda will be this. The course duration is 19 to 20 hours, and with this training, the training will be conducted on 12C environment. The platform is Unix and database is 12.1 multi-tenant architecture. So we'll be having Oracle 12C database server and we'll be having 2 instances of Oracle Goldengate. So it is a complete hands-on training. So what are the contents which we are going to cover are overview of Oracle. So we'll be starting with overview of Oracle database, how data is stored in Oracle database, what are the transaction logs which are required by Oracle Goldengate for capturing the data. Next we'll be discussing about introduction to Oracle Goldengate. So how you can use Goldengate for live reporting, real-time data warehousing, live standby database and high availability. Then we'll be discussing about what are the databases and platforms which are supported by Oracle Goldengate and what are the advantages of Oracle Goldengate above its competitors. Then we'll be installing Oracle Goldengate. So we'll be downloading the software from Oracle website and then we'll be installing Oracle Goldengate. So you will be receiving with this training, you will be receiving the lab setup material for which you will have your lifetime access. It's not that the access will be there only till the training, you will have access, lifetime access to this lab. So I'll be providing you Oracle Goldengate software. However, the installation you will be doing. I'll be showing you how to do that and you will be installing it on your own. I'll be sharing documentations, lot of documentation for the training as well. Apart from uh, lab setup material, I'll be sharing with you training documentations, interview question and answers, some books I'll be sharing with you. So in the next module, we'll be discussing about Oracle Goldengate architecture. So what we have discussed today, Oracle Goldengate architecture, we'll be discussing more in detail. Remember, Goldengate architecture is very important. Whenever you have to troubleshoot, whenever you have to look into any issue, whenever you have to configure new environment, Goldengate architecture will always come to your rescue. So here we'll be discussing what are the concepts and components. We'll be discussing everything in detail, how the process data flow and what are the design considerations you need to keep in mind. Now suppose you are asked to configure new Goldengate setup in your environment by your client. So how you will proceed, how you will strategize to implement Oracle Goldengate in your environment. We'll be discussing that. Then we'll be configuring and preparing the environment. We'll be setting up the database. We'll be setting up Oracle Goldengate. We'll configure the manager process, describe the manager process. Then we'll be starting configure the globals file. Then next we'll be discussing about DML replication using Oracle Goldengate. So how replication happens, how extract captures the data. First of all, we'll need to, so we have seen the architecture. So how you create the extract process, how to configure data pump, how to configure delivery, we'll be seeing in DML replication. For that we'll be having description and demo, what is integrated extract versus classic extract, what is the difference between integrated replicate and classic replicate. We'll be discussing all these things. Then we'll be discussing about initial load, how to get two databases into sync initially. Now suppose for instance your source database is running for 2 years and its size is 500 GB right now. Now due to regulatory reasons, they decide to use Oracle Goldengate for replication. So Goldengate can take care of data from the day you install Oracle Goldengate, you set up Goldengate. However, how to get the data? 500 GB of data which is already present for past 2 years. So for that purpose, you need to use Oracle initial load. So how to perform initial load using Goldengate? How to get two databases into sync initially? We'll be discussing in initial load section. Next, we'll be discussing about zero downtime migration and upgradation using Oracle Goldengate. So as we discussed, it is possible to perform zero downtime migration and upgradation using Oracle Goldengate. So we'll be discussing how it is possible, what steps you need to take to perform zero downtime migration and upgradation using Oracle Goldengate. Then we'll be discussing about Goldengate 12c new features. Now this 12c new features we'll be discussing regularly anyways. During the training, we'll be discussing regularly what are the new features, what are the advantages, what are the enhancement that has been done in 12c. Next, we'll be discussing about parameter files. Now this parameter files are the heartbeat of Oracle Goldengate. Just like at the database level, you have control files. Similarly, at the Goldengate level, you have parameter files. Now, you may be asked to set up. There are two cases upon the completion of training. You may be asked to set up new Goldengate. You may be asked to set up extract, data pump, and delivery process, or you may be asked to support existing environment. So you should, every process has its own parameter files. So you should be able to understand what are the parameters provided, how to comprehend existing parameter file, how to configure new parameter file. So we'll be discussing all that in parameter file. This is one of the most important and interesting topic of Oracle Goldengate. Then data definition file. So with Goldengate, the capability is it can replicate the data with in heterogeneous environment as well. So prior to 12c, this data definition file is not required from 12c onwards. However, prior to 12c, you had to create data definition file. So when to use data definition file, how to use it, how to configure data definition file, how to make a replicate read the data definition file, we'll be discussing in data definition file section. Next, we'll be discussing about DDL replication. So how to configure DDL, how to replicate DDL transactions in your environment, alter, drop, create, how to configure, extract and replicate for DDL replication. Then next we'll be discussing about bidirectional replication using Oracle Goldengate. So in this case we'll be discussing how to detect the conflict, resolve the conflicts, what is active bidirectional configuration, what is active passive bidirectional configuration, what are the scenarios you need to keep in mind so that things don't go into loop. All this we'll be discussing in bidirectional. Then we'll be discussing about configuring Oracle Goldengate security. Now, every organization is very much worried about their data. Their data should never be hacked. It should never be visible to outside world. So what we are going to do for configuring the security? So we'll be creating the wallet. We'll be using new 12c feature, which is user ID alias and credential store, and then how to put that password in credentials to. We'll be discussing all that in Oracle Goldengate security. Then the next section will be discussing troubleshoot Goldengate issues. Now again, this topic will be discussing regularly during the training. You will find how to troubleshoot the issues, how to use discard file, how to add a new table in already running Goldengate configuration, how to adjust the extract and replicate based on SCN database logs and timestamp. So we'll be doing this regularly, you'll be finding. Then how to manage Oracle Goldengate. How can you manage once you have set up? So you need to manage it. So how to manage trail files, how to do automatic process startup, how to use reporting and statistics in Oracle Goldengate. Next, we'll be discussing about how to read your trail files. Again, this is one of the most advanced and challenging topic. So here we'll be discussing how to use your logdom to read the trail files. See, the trail files which you generate are binary format trail files. You cannot read them directly. So to read them, you have a utility called as logdom. So how you can use logdom to read the trail files, we'll be discussing in this section. Next, we'll be discussing about performance of this. Again, will be discussed regularly. So here we'll be discussing how to monitor Oracle Goldengate, how to monitor lag, how Goldengate ensures data integrity. We'll be discussing checkpoint. So everything we'll be discussing, how you can improve the performance of Goldengate, how Goldengate ensures data integrity. There is checkpoint process in Goldengate. Remember, during the training you will find two terms common. One is checkpoint, another one is data pump. So whenever we are referring to Goldengate, whenever we are referring to uh, checkpoint and data pump, we will always be referring to checkpoint unless and otherwise specified. Okay, so don't get confused. We are talking about database checkpoint or database data pump. So we'll be discussing performance. This is very important. How to monitor the lag, what to do if lag goes high. See, if your setup, if your planning is correct, if you are while setting up you are able to resolve all these things, means what I say is, if you spend 80% of time in planning and 20% of time in execution, your performance of Goldengate will always be very high. Just spend 80% of time in planning and 20% of time in execution. Then we'll be have question and answer session regularly. So with this training, you will be receiving virtual machine setup along with Linux image and Oracle database and Oracle Goldengate setup. Also, you'll be getting documentations. I'll be sharing a lot of test cases, interview questions as well. So upon completion of training, if you want, you can also go for certification of Oracle Goldengate Implementation Specialist or Oracle Goldengate 12C Essentials. So let us do the quick, let us see a quick lab, how data gets flown from source to target in Goldengate. So we have Ggate 1, these setup will be shared with you as well. The setup which I am showing with you right now, lab setup. So you have the advantage that whatever we are doing in training, you can practice it anytime, even after the end of the training as well. So we are replicating Goldengate. We are replicating the data from Ggate 1 is our source and Ggate 2 is our target. So I'll be giving you the virtual machine image file. I'll be giving you software image file, everything loaded into it. You just need to install it along with instruction document. It will take around 5 to 10 to 15 minutes max to do that on your machine. So now Ggate 1 to Ggate 2 will be replicating the data. Ggate 1 is our source, Ggate 2 is our target. Now remember, the main advantage of Goldengate is you don't need to have same schema name or same object name on source and target. With Goldengate, you can replicate the data from source to target even if the name is different, schema name is different, or object name is different. You can perform the mapping. So we have a schema called as GG training 1 on source, and on target, that is Ggate 2, we have a schema called as GG training 2. On source, we have a table called as DEPT1 and EMP1. So we'll be replicating data to DEPT2 and EMP2 on target. So if we see right now, our schema name is different, table name is different. Also, The tables are empty right now on both source and target. They are empty. They don't have any data. So what we'll be doing now, select star from EMP2, no data, and select star from DEPT2. So there is no data. So what we'll be doing now, we'll be inserting data into DEPT1 and EMP1 on source, and data will be replicated to DEPT2 and EMP2 on target. So we'll be inserting some data. So we have already configured extract and data pump process. What we discussed, extract and data pump process are already configured on source, and corresponding replicate capture process is also known as extract process. Delivery process is also known as replicate process. So we are already replicating, we have created the replicate process on target. How to configure it, we'll be seeing during the training, don't worry about that. So now let us do some transactions into these tables. So I have a script called as dml.sql, which will insert 4 rows into DEPT1 and 7 rows into EMP1. I'll be inserting into DEPT1 and EMP1 on GGate1 using Goldengate. It will be replicated to DEPT2 and EMP2 on target. So let me run dml.sql and see it contains the commit as well. So now when we see select star from DEPT1, okay, it says not enough values in DEPT1. I know why, because I have some extra column in DEPT1. So let me do alter table DEPT1 drop location drop column DEPT1 drop column. So now when I run dml.sql, it will insert. So if I check now, select star from DEPT1, you will find that in DEPT1 on source I have inserted 4 records, and when I do select star from EMP1, 7 rows have been inserted. So you have done the transaction on source database. Now it should be replicated to GGate2 in DEPT2 and EMP2. So let us check. Earlier there were no rows. So if Goldengate is working, Goldengate is replicating the data successfully, that 4 rows should be reflecting into DEPT2 and 7 rows should be present in EMP2. So if I check select star from EMP2, yeah, 7 rows have been replicated. Select star from DEPT2, 4 rows. So what we did, your application made the insert statement into DEPT1 and EMP1 on GGate1. Using Goldengate, it has been replicated successfully to DEPT2 and EMP2. You can check the statistics of each process. You can check stats of EXTINT1. So you can see 4 rows of DEPT1 have been captured. Stats, same thing, 4 rows for DEPT1. When you go to target and check statistics of REPINT1, same, 4 rows have been applied successfully. So if you go above, you will be able to find replicating from pdb1.ggtraining1.dept1 to pdb2.ggtraining2.dept2. pdb1 and pdb2 are the database names. Similarly, for EMP1 and EMP2, same thing, 7 rows have been inserted successfully. So the application made the entry into database into GGate1, Goldengate replicated it to GGate2. So as per our session plan, we'll be starting our training from next week, next Saturday. So this is a weekend batch. Classes will start from 7:30 a.m. IST it will be 2.5 hours each except on 24th and 25th. That is first week it will be 1.5 hour session. Only for first week it will be 1.5 hour session. From next week onward it will be 2.5 hour session on Saturdays and Sundays. So IST timing is 5 p.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays. So first two sessions, as I mentioned, are 1.5 hours, and for after 1 week we'll be having 2.5 hour session each day on Saturdays and Sundays. So this training program is total 20 hours, and as per the this is the session plan what we'll be covering each day. So on 8th of July we won't be having the session because I have some activity at my organization, so I won't be available on 8th of July. Apart from that, we'll be having session on each Saturday and Sunday. So link for joining the training is this one. I'll ping you on chat session as well. Anyways, you will be receiving the mail after this session. So we'll be starting our training from next week, 24th of June. So how you can attend the course? You just need internet connection with, if you want it to be interactive, then headset would be required, and leave rest on us. For lab exercises, you will get VirtualBox setup, which you can install on your own machine and use it on your lifetime. So the feedback which I have received for the training is very good. You can check my LinkedIn profile as I mentioned, or Urban Pro as well, or you can also check my YouTube channel as well. So on my YouTube channel as well, you can find I'm always active over there as well. Whatever questions are asked by students, and feedback again is very good. So this is one of the feedback which I received. So thanks everyone. Thanks for joining the session, and we'll be starting our training from next week. I hope you liked the session. Please do share the feedback as well.